welcome back to Denelli Chic Handmade, and today I'm going to work on a square hat made on the large Addi 46 pin machine. You could also make this on the 48 pin Centro. I'm using a worsted weight yarn, which is I'm using the Vanna's Choice, and what I noticed when I went shopping the other day is they just recently changed the label. Joann's near me wasn't carrying it for a while, but I was excited to see that they now have the Vanna's Choice. I just wanted to point out that the label has changed. I'll be using a crochet hook. I'm using a H, and you can use any size. I'm also going to be using 2 pom-poms. The hat does not have to have pom-poms. Now, this particular hat that I made was 100 rows, and you could double it up so that it has a cuff. I'll be making a little bit of a shorter version today that you won't have to roll up. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Like most of my projects, I'm going to add waste yarn so that it will be able to have a edge so we could sew the seam together for the top of the hat. So I'm going to be using a contrasting color of white since my hat is black. I'm going to go ahead and cast on my waste yarn and find the first black needle. I'm going to place the white under the black needle. I'm going to go ahead and move my handle and start to feed the yarn under every other hook or needle, however you want to say it. Just every other. Put my yarn guide on 0. Open up my yarn feeder, place the yarn in here. And go ahead and do 5 rows of the waste yarn. And I have one more row. I'm going to cut it here. Open up my yarn guide and just put my needle, lay it down. Now I'm going to take my main color, which is the black yarn. I'm going to put it in my yarn guide and place it right next to the white one. I'm going to put my yarn counter back to 0, my row counter. And the first row, I always like to watch it and make sure none of the stitches come off of the needles. I'm going to continue on like this for 80 rows. I'm making the version that won't be rolled up. If you want to continue on and making the one that does roll up with a brim, you can go ahead and do 100 rows. So 80 rows without a brim and 100 rows with a brim. So I'll meet you when I get closer to the end. I'm almost up to my 80 rows. And if you want to continue on to row 100, you can go ahead and do that. It'll make the hat a little bit longer so that you can add a brim to it. So I'm going to move my main color out of the way. I'm going to put this here so it'll kind of keep it out of my way. I'm going to go ahead and add my contrasting waste yarn. And what the waste yarn does is it adds a edging so that you could see your row so that you know where to pull your stitches when you join everything together. Put my contrasting waste yarn, and I'm going to do about 5 rows of waste yarn. And again, I'm going to go slow on this row because I don't want any of the stitches to come out. Pull these down. Move this one down. There we go. These hooks are wonderful if you have one. If not, I'll post a link to the bottom so you can get one. They're wonderful. Let's see. And we're almost there. And as you can see, I like to keep my needle here in the little hole so that the yarn can kind of stay out of the way. So I'll be using that to close up the end. Almost done. Adding the waste yarn. do a couple more rows. This end always kind of has a tendency to unravel, so I'm just gonna add one more after this. So 7 total waste yarn on this end. Okay, cut my yarn. Put my yarn guide, put my yarn down here. I'm gonna roll up the center so that I can easily take this off. I'm gonna put my hand underneath my project, and I'm gonna slowly crank as this is turning. You don't want anything to unravel. Let me get this out of the way. There. And just keep turning until all the stitches naturally start to fall off. Now this guy here, he's gonna help him out, okay? Just keep turning while holding your work. You don't want it to just plop down because you don't want it to unravel. And I'm just letting all the stitches naturally fall off. There. And we'll go on to the next step. I have my tube done. This is 80 rows. And again, if you wanted to make it longer, you could have made it 100 rows, so this way it would have a foldable brim. And the ends have the waste yarn. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this tube into itself. And then I'm gonna line up. So put your 2 sides together. And what you're looking for is where you can see the black that's framed by the white. And here where we have the white, we're gonna pick up this stitch here. And then on the opposite side where we'll pull on the black, you can see where it's kind of pushing in. We're gonna pick up the opposite stitch. And we're just gonna push it through. We're gonna grab on this side, push it through, pull up a loop, go to the opposite side, and you're just gonna zigzag back and forth. I'm trying to get really close to the camera so you could see. Zigzag back and forth, and what we're doing is we're joining the 2 tubes together. And that's why the waste yarn is good, because you can see where the last row is. It's framed by the white. Again, I'm picking up the stitch, pulling it through on the opposite side. We're going back and forth, zigzagging across. And as you can see, I'm just going to continue on until I get all the way around. So I'll meet you when I get there. But I'm at the end. I'm going to put a stitch marker here so I don't lose my stitches. And I'm going to go ahead and remove my waste yarn. Move my camera a little bit. Now that I removed the waste yarn, I'm going to sew up the ends. So these 2 ends here, I'm just going to go ahead and tie this so that nothing comes apart. Do a surgeon's knot. And then I have a long piece of the main color. And you could actually have sewn up the ends this way also. I just find it to be a little bit neater the other way. And I apologize if the stitches are going to be hard to see since this is black yarn. I'm going to go ahead and scoop up this one. And I'm just going to put my stitches inside. I'm just going to quickly just sew the 2 ends together. And since this is black, it actually is good because you can't really see too much of the details. So perfection is not required on this part. And just keep picking up your stitches so that the ends are sewn together. And I will meet you when I get to the end, and I'll show you how this looks with the pom-poms added to the corners. I've completed my hat. I joined the ends, and as you can see, it looks pretty good. I'm going to add my pom-poms. I'll post a link to where I get the pom-poms. I usually get them on Amazon. I know you could make your own also, which I've seen a lot of really nice ones people make. So I'm just gonna put this on. This has black with some white. And I always go through a couple of times. Now, one thing I noticed with the Vannas, it did come out a little bit shorter than what I would have liked the hat to be. I think when you're using the Vannas, you should probably do about, I did 80 rows, you should probably do 85. This will probably fit someone with a smaller head when you do 80 rows with this yarn. When I used the Hobby Lobby yarn, it was very generous. So I think 80 rows with the Hobby Lobby yarn is perfect, but with the Vanna, it comes out a little bit on the smaller side. So again, you'll see that a lot. Everyone talks about different yarns and how sometimes things come out different sizes. So a lot of it is experimentation and tension and things like that. So this gives you an idea. And this is a really quick project. You could probably make a hat in, I don't know, 20 minutes, which is great. Just sew that down. And I'll just use this for my other pom-pom. I love these pom-poms. They're so pretty with the white tips. Just come up through here, the other corner, and find my loop. And the pom-poms, when you order them, sometimes they don't come out, when you get them, they're not super fuzzy. So you just use a blow dryer to get them all fluffed up. Now, since this yarn wasn't attached underneath, I'm just gonna grab it and tie it. Let's see, pull this one, okay. Let's see which one it is, okay. Just tie it out. Okay. And there you go. And you can kind of see this one needs to be fluffed up with a blow dryer. And there's my hat. Whoops. There, I get it better into the camera. And I'll post a picture of how it looks on a model. And I really want to thank everyone. Please, for all your support, please like and subscribe and let me know if you have any ideas for any future videos. I really appreciate everything. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.